Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us. My name is Maria Luisa Garnica, and I am the Education USA Advisor in Guatemala City. Today, we're going to discuss a little bit about what are the things you should consider when choosing your undergraduate options. Yes, when you explore those options. So, to begin with, I want to go over some of the items that we're going to have today, so the agenda. We're going to look at the different categories to consider. We're going to talk about different elements and different angles to explore when making that list, that choice for your best fit. And then I'm going to go over the ways you can do this, the best ways, and some suggestions for search engines and so on. And then in the live session, we will have a part for questions and answers. So let's begin with thinking about how many colleges and universities you think there are in the US. Maybe you think there's a couple hundred, maybe you think there's around 1,000, but I want you to think about the size of the country. So it's a very large country with a lot of people. And so there's actually around 4,700 universities and colleges in the US. So that means there's a lot of options for you. And all of these options go through accreditation processes. So when you are looking at universities, you're looking at high quality education that is going to give you top-notch experiences as an undergraduate student. And that also allows for a lot of diversity and flexibility in your curriculum. So that added to the cultural value of the exchange that you experience in the US, that is going to be a once in a lifetime experience that is going to give you so much more than just a diploma. So think about it as exciting possibilities, right? It's not just a lot of options, but it's exciting options. And we're going to look at 5 different categories, okay? So that you start asking yourself questions in regards to this. What are you looking for? What would you like? What fits you best? Okay? We're going to look at institutions and their types. We're going to look at region, the whole of the US. What are some of the differences between the different states in the US? We're going to look about the setting of the university. We're also going to look into the academics. What is your profile? What is the profile the university is looking for? And we're also going to talk briefly about finances and how does that fit you. Okay? So let's get started with the institution. There are 4,700 different kinds of institutions in the US, and you have to think about it in different types. Okay, so there is the public versus the private. You often find universities that are public, therefore they're state universities normally, and this means that they have funds from the state that they belong to. All right, and this means that you as an international student, unless you are from that state and therefore not an international student, you will get the out-of-state tuition. That means it's more costly. All right, they're great universities, but you also have to evaluate that element. And then there's private universities that have private funds. Their origin for their money is private, so normally they cost the same for everyone. And then we have the commonly interchangeably words college and university. And the way I like to think about it is that there are 2 differences when you talk about college and university. Yeah, there is community colleges, which are state institutions that cost lower than other institutions and that allow you to do a technical degree or meet requirements to then transfer to a 4-year institution. There's lots of great community colleges, and they're normally around 2-year programs that are offered there. And then we have a category that is called liberal arts colleges, which tend to be smaller institutions that focus on the diversity of the academic curriculum. All right, so you got to keep in mind these different terms, and also keep in mind the financial aspect of this when you're looking at your options. From this, you then have to think about the student population, okay? Oftentimes, state universities or large universities, right, means that there are a lot of students, okay? There may be 20,000 or more students, and that may be something that you'd like, but perhaps you want less students around you, or you want a school that has a lot of international students, okay? So all of the elements of size and demographic of student population are a valid question for you to ask yourself. And you also have to think about the selectivity of the institutions that you're looking at, because you have to be realistic, right? You have to match your profile as a student to the requirements in the students the universities are looking at, okay? So how do you match this? If there is a highly selective institution that only admits 4% of the students that apply, how do you match that when you look into the students that do get in that institution? How do you fit that profile? Okay, this in turn means that you match them. So you want to think about it in two ways: you matching the institution, but the institution matching you as well. And of course, there are other elements that you can consider, such as if they have special programs, perhaps you're interested in the arts or some other sort of field that is very specialized. So you want to make sure that the school offers it. Perhaps you practice a religion and you want to continue practicing that religion when you're in the US, or you want to make sure that that is available to you. Or you would like an all male or all female campus. That is all a possibility in the US. Then I want to talk about the region, all right? The country in the US is a very large country, and so we divide it in around 4 general areas. You have the West, which is the largest area, with states such as California and Washington State, Wyoming, and they usually have milder weather and large spaces. All right. Each state, in a way, is its own environment, so you have to keep that in mind. Then we have the Midwest, which has states such as Michigan, Ohio, Minnesota, and these states tend to have stronger winters and very defined seasons. And like I said, each state has its own culture. Then we have the Northeast, which are a lot of smaller states. They also tend to have very defined seasons. And here we find states such as Maine, Connecticut, and Vermont, to name a few. And then we have the south of the US, which tends to be warmer, right? We have states such as Florida, Texas, Louisiana. And each of these regions as a whole have different personalities, perhaps, or culture. So we want to look at it in the more detailed way. So Google it, find what elements, what things are around that specific state, or what is the culture like in that state, okay? Because that's a valid question for you to ask yourself. What do I want to experience around me? Which leads us to the setting of your chosen options, right? There are different kinds of settings. We have the urban, the suburban, and the rural. This means what is going on around the campus, okay? So for example, what kinds of activities are available to you. Would you like to have activities available to you on the weekends or in your free time? Would you like to have lots of nature around you? Would you like to have lots of museums and so on? When we look at urban settings, we think about large populations in cities, oftentimes with good or available public transport that tends to have a higher living cost when you're looking at urban settings. When you look at suburban settings, you're looking at lower costs that have moderate populations and that tend to be around residential areas in a way accessible to maybe larger cities and so on. And then when you look at rural areas, you're seeing spaces that have a lot of land around you, lots of space, and they tend to have lower living costs. So when you think about it, there's a lot of options, and it doesn't mean that you only have to choose one or the other. It means that you can be informed and therefore choose your options in regards to what you would like. Okay? Ask yourself, what would I like? And perhaps you want both, right? You want a space that has a lot of nature around, but you also want to have the opportunity to get to a city quickly and easily. All of these are possible because the US is a vast and large country that has lots of different elements and environments available to international students. And now let's talk a little bit about academics, all right? When you think about academics, you want to think about your plans for the future. It's okay if you don't have a clear plan, all right? That is valid. But you want to have a general idea at least, okay? So think about your student profile. What are some of the classes that you enjoy, or what are some of the classes that you really are good at, right? What are some of the activities that you do that you enjoy a lot or that you feel comfortable doing and you look forward to doing? Ask your counselors, ask your teachers, what are some of the advice they could give you for choosing a professional path. That is valid. That is a good resource. All right? Think about your short-term goals as well. What would you like to have as the classroom experience when you go to university in the US? Okay, do you want a lot of research perhaps? Or do you want more personalized interactions with your professors? Okay, and then go into the long-term goals. What are some of those career paths that you may want to explore in the future? What does that look like? And again, it doesn't mean that you will have to go down that path. It just means that this allows for a general idea of what you could explore, and that can send you on your way. Okay? Now, lastly, I want to talk about the finances category that you must explore. You have to realize that the origin of funding for your undergraduate studies in the US is mostly going to be personal funds and potential scholarships. So you have to ask yourself, how much are you willing and would you like to invest in your education? Perhaps this is a question to have with your family or your guardians, your caretakers, and think about it and create a realistic expectation of how much you'd be willing to invest in your education. Think about what it currently costs for you to go to school and to exist, and be honest about it. And then when you think about potential scholarships, you have to realize there are different types. And they're, of course, highly selective because you have to meet certain requirements and match those requirements for those specific scholarships. So oftentimes you have to have good grades, but a lot of time that's not enough, right? Being a good student is awesome, but perhaps that's not the only requirement to earn a scholarship. You have to realize they're highly selective and you have to polish and work on your profile. And now you may be wondering, but how are you going to do all of this? So the first two suggestions that I want to give you is to reach out to Education USA. Okay, reach out to your Education USA Advising Center. You can either take a picture of the slide or click or look at the QR code and then click on that link. The educationusa.state.gov website has a lot of resources, and these resources are great and available to you. So reach out to your Education USA Advising Center, the one that's nearest to you. There's more than 400 centers around the world. So make sure to reach out to them through the Education USA website or through social media, okay? And then there's this questionnaire that proposes different questions that you can ask yourself and go, taking some notes and exploring what comes up of what would you like to have as your options in undergraduate. Apart from that, there is these search engines that you could use. We have the Big Future at college from College Board. We have the Peterson's search engine. We have the College Navigator, and we have the Princeton Review College search engine. Okay, these are 4 proposed ones. There are a lot of other resources, and I invite you again to reach out to your Education USA Advising Center because they'll be happy to help you out in giving you more resources. Okay, for time's sake, we are going to explore the Big Future search engine. So when you go to the Big Future search engine, you will click on search for colleges, all right? As you see there. When you click for search for colleges, you are then taken to a site that looks like this. We have the categories option and then how the categories are selected. So you have all sorts of different categories. You have the test scores, you have the campus and housing, you have the academic credit, etc. Each of these categories allow you to move, as you can see on the sliders continuum side of the screen. It allows you to move, do I really require this element, or am I okay? It's like a moderate requirement, or I really need it, okay? So make sure you play around with those gradients and you're gonna get a lot of results. And then you can go to the sites of the universities that call your attention and look a little bit more into what they offer. What's the feel that you get? Remember, you should also explore their social media because you want to get a feeling of their personality, of the atmosphere that's around. And social media is a really good reference point for this, okay? So remember, you can reach out to us at Education USA to help you out and explore the options that you want, okay? Don't forget to dream big and stay grounded while considering the institution type, the region, the setting, the academic, the finances. But always aim for your dream, but stay grounded so that the work that you do gives you the results that you're requiring. Thanks so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you